Our beloved and cute little tiger tyrant Jufufu has finally arrived, and fortunately she is not only very easy to play, but also very strong. If you are willing to adjust your builds, that is. Her daze, damage and buffs can be anywhere in between meh and pretty good, depending on your disc stats and weapon options. So let's talk about her kit and how she plays, her best weapons, disc drives and disc drive sets, her combos, her main and substats, her teams and mindscapes, and lastly, let's also talk about her pros and cons. Welcome! I'm Rivenous and this is your complete in-depth guide to Jufufu. Fufu is a fire-type stun agent who excels at providing daze by using aftershock chain attacks from off-field, while also buffing your entire team's chain, ultimate and crit damage, with the latter depending on her initial attack stat, just like Astra. To understand this better, let's talk about her kit first. Jufufu features a 4-part basic attack string, and similar to Qingyi, by spamming her basic attack button during her basic 3, she will continue to claw at her enemies in front and then follow up with her basic 4 when let go after. While we will not necessarily use her basic attacks too much, it might be used occasionally, especially if you're using Blazing Laurel, but more on that later. But it is not only her who will actually basic attack, in fact she also comes with a pet, Huei. Huei is her mechanical tiger who will stay on field even if she is not, and he will attack a nearby enemy every 4 seconds. This attack will also generate 20 might. And you rightfully just asked yourself, what is might? Good question, so let's answer it. Jufufu has 2 unique resources, Might and Momentum. Might is displayed right below her health bar and it caps out at 200 points. When Jufufu has at least 100 Might, if she is off-field and when Huei attacks, she will then automatically cast her second chain attack and consume 100 Might. Her second resource is Momentum and it is displayed below her HP bar with this little buff icon. Her EX special, ultimate and assist follow-up grant her 3, 6 and 1 momentum respectively, and if she has at least 1 momentum, after using her off-field chain attack she will then mount her tiger and activate her dash attack Fury Spin from off-field. Every Fury Spin will consume 1 momentum, generate 25 might, and she will remain in the state until no momentum is left. The off-field chain attack is also considered an aftershock. As for her core passive, whenever Jufufu casts her off-field chain attack, she will grant all squad members Tiger's Roar, which is a buff that gives 20% chain attack damage bonus, 40% ultimate damage bonus, and up to 50% crit damage, 20% at its base and an additional up to 30% depending on her initial attack stat, starting at 2800 and capping out at 3400. Lastly, while she is buffed, she will also give herself 50 impact. As already mentioned earlier, her ultimate will grant her 6 momentum, but also 100 might, and her EX special gives her 3 momentum and 80 might. Momentum is kept at a maximum of 15, although I am not too sure how to effectively reach that number unless you actively on-field her or have her M2. As for her additional ability, she requires either an attack or rupture agent. And when that condition is fulfilled, the maximum decibels of the team will be increased to 4000, and whenever an attack or rupture agent uses an ultimate, she will refund 300 decibels to them. This is important, the decibel refund will only work on attack and rupture agents. It does not work on herself or on stun characters in general, not on supports and so on, only attack and rupture agents. Lastly, a note or two about Huei, again that is her pet. Since he is a separate entity while Huei is present on the field, you can reach an effective 16% combat attack on Kaboom from your support. Secondly, while Jufufu casts her Fury Spin, that is again this attack, consuming her momentum, or casting her chain attack, Huei is not actively on field anymore, and that means he also cannot attack during this time. And honestly, that mainly covers her kit. Unfortunately for us, her daze is kinda distributed all throughout her entire kit, so if you are aiming for a maximum output of daze and damage, you likely want to level all of her skills somewhat high. If not, however, your skill priority will be core and chain, into EX special and basics, into assist and lastly dodge. While her dash attacks are part of her dodge, the damage and daze on it is pretty low, so the skill levels here don't matter too much for that matter. With that said, let's talk about her combos. Before we can actually talk about the combos themselves, spoiler, she doesn't have any, we have to understand how her gameplay loop works. Hue will generate 100 might every 20 seconds. Her ultimate will grant you 100 might as well, and her EX special gives you 80. Every 100 might generated will result in one off-field chain attack, and every chain attack will consume all momentum over a period of time. Every point of momentum consumed will then refund 25 might. And knowing this, let's put this into perspective by example. Using her ultimate, she will generate 6 momentum and 100 might, and using her EX special on top will generate 3 momentum and 80 might. This results in a total of 180 might and 9 momentum. When we switch her off field, the next time Hue attacks, he will generate an additional 20 might and then trigger her off-field chain attack. Now we are at 200 might and 9 momentum. Jufufu will now consume 100 might and cast her off-field chain attack. After this, she will enter the Fury spin, and this spin will consume 1 momentum, generates 25 might, and then also trigger her next chain attack. Now she uses her second off-field chain attack, consumes again 100 might, and with that she is at 25 might left and has 8 momentum. She will now again enter the Fury spin and continues to consume momentum to generate 25 might for each one consumed. After 3 attacks, she will then reach 100 might again and has 5 momentum left. She casts her chain attack, is now at 0 might, and she will then do 4 more Fury spins before casting another chain. This leaves her with 1 momentum at the end, and this is also where her own resource loops end. Essentially what this means is she can self-sustain her might for a while by consuming momentum, which she can generate throughout her skills. This also means she does not really have any combos in the traditional sense. Jufufu's difficulty lies in her resource management and managing it effectively. If you have 160 might, you probably don't want to switch into her and cast her EX special. You would waste an effective 40 might by doing that. This means also, instead of providing you combos, I will give you guidelines on when to use her respective skills so you don't actually end up wasting might. If you have 80 might or below, you can use her ultimate. Since her chain will trigger only after the next time Hue attacks, and this attack generates an additional 20 might, this will cap you out at exactly 200, well, given you used it at 80 might that is. If you have 100 might or less, you can use her EX special. Or in other words, just follow this flowchart. Pause if you need to. As a special note, Jufufu will not wait with her off-field chain attacks in Fury Spin until it suits you. If the marionette goes into her invulnerability phase, Jufufu will more often than we would like her to still cast her chain attacks. On the clones, this is a waste of daze and damage, and what you can do in this case is that you just might want to switch into her during these kind of situations to prevent her doing, well, exactly that. And lastly, her EX special can also be swap cancelled relatively early, and I would also recommend you doing that. And with that said, let's talk about her weapons. Her signature is usually not actually her best in slot. It does, however, provide her one very big advantage: the ease of build. Effectively, unless you have absolute god tier substats, without her signature you will need to trade either daze or damage to actually hit the 3400 attack breakpoint to achieve the maximum crit damage buff from her core. I want to emphasize that this is absolutely not a requirement, and it is totally okay to, well, not hit that. Any more attack above 2800 is a bonus and not a requirement. If you farm disk drives for a bit, you are able to simply make up for what her signature provides while also coming out ahead in terms of days. Play the long game, not the credit card. That said, especially in Fire and Ice teams, Blazing Laurel is her best in slot. Not only will it provide the most days, you can also comfortably run Impact in slot 6 and a 2-piece Shockstar while only missing out on about 8% crit damage, depending on your substats of course. Due to Hu Wei being considered a basic attack and her being able to pre-stack Blazing Laurel at the beginning of combat due to her basic 3 swipes which happen rather fast, not only can you get the full 30 stacks rather quickly, but also maintain it while she is off field even. Her signature will provide 20% damage bonus to the team however, and outside of said Fire and Ice teams, this can make it, at least in terms of overall damage gain for the team, her best choice if the additional days from Blazing Laurel would not give you an additional stun window. Fossilized Core is another option which will provide the most days for the first 20,000 points in Deadly Assault at the cost of about 20% crit damage from her core. Running attack percent in slot 6 will allow you to reach a much higher crit damage buff, but her days will drop down to about the same as her signature, which to be fair is still really good mind you. Generally speaking, no other weapon can reach the same damage potential for herself as her signature can, but speaking purely in terms of days, any S-rank weapon, even the standard ones, can achieve nearly the same days results while not losing out too much crit damage from her core. It's only 8 to 10%. And that you can still always make up for by playing the long game and getting more attack percent substats. Hence, I would personally not recommend getting her signature. Instead, you are better off using either Blazing Laurel, Fossilized Core, Hellfire Gears, or even the Restraint. At least in my opinion. If you run her signature, crit rate in slot 4, attack percent in slot 5 and impact in slot 6 will give you the best results if your substats allow for it. Since her damage contribution is not the greatest anyway however, running attack percent in slot 4 is a good option if you're short on attack. With any other S-rank weapon, I would recommend attack percent in slot 4 and 5 and impact in slot 6. If you are using any A-rank weapon, either go for a triple attack percent layout if you cannot hit 4 stuns regardless, or attack percent in slot 4 and 5 with impact in slot 6 if you are able to hit 4 stun windows doing that. This, however, will mostly be the case for Fossilized Core anyway. Lastly, if you have no crit rate whatsoever, a layout of crit rate in slot 4 and attack percent in slot 5 and 6 is an option, but only do this if you can A. not hit a 4th stun window regardless, and B. frankly have absolute dogshit substats. Generally speaking, unless you run her signature, I would always recommend checking whether or not you are able to hit 4 stun windows with impact in slot 6, and if you are not, you are always better off running attack percent in slot 6 instead. This will depend largely on the matchup and how you play. I cannot give you here a set and forget recommendation. You will need to check this for yourself and likely also change your slot 6 main stat depending on the matchup. As for her disk drive sets, a 4-piece King of the Summit is her best in slot, and I would honestly not recommend running anything else. Due to her off-field chain attacks, she can easily proc and sustain the set even during the enemy stun window without her having to actually use her normal chain or even EX special. Running any other set will be a damage loss for your team even if you're not able to hit the 50% crit rate threshold. Although, given her crit rate Ascension core, this should be very feasible regardless. As for her 2-piece, it depends. If a 2-piece Shockstar helps you hit a 4th stun window, run that one. If not, either a 2-piece Woodpecker can help you to hit the 50% crit rate threshold for 4-piece Summit, or also a 2-piece Astral or Hormone Punk are very valid choices as well if you are short on attack for her core. For the substats, prioritize crit rate until 50%, as well as attack percent and flat attack until a maximum of 3400. If you have hit both of these breakpoints, you can go for crit damage and lastly flat pen after that. Onto our Mindscapes. Our Mindscape 1 provides 12% crit rate and a 35% stun damage multiplier. This does not only make her significantly easier to build, it will also vastly increase your team's damage output. Her M2 gives you an additional 22% crit damage to the team, but more importantly, it also grants her momentum anytime any ally uses an ultimate. Effectively, this translates into 75 more might for every ultimate usage. Due to her refunding decibels, with up to 11 ultimates per fight, this is an effective 825 might which you gain on top, which also means it basically doubles the amount of possible off-field chain attacks she does. This will largely depend on you and how you play, and also differ between the teams. However, that is essentially the highest ceiling she can reach from this Mindscape. On top, this Mindscape is also much better with characters who have multiple ultimates. And by that I mean Yejuan. Her M2 basically guarantees you 4 stun windows and is much better with Yejuan than with any other character. It is kind of tailor-made for her. Since this question will come up, yes, her M1 and M2 are both much better than her signature is. Her M2 is especially very good with Yejuan, and hence if you are thinking about getting Mindscapes for Jufufu, get her M1 and her M2 over her signature. Both of them are better. M3 and M5 exist, and so does her Mindscape 4. Her M6, however, is a significant personal damage gain, but does less so for her daze and damage. Generally speaking, a good stopping point is her Mindscape 2. Jufufu is absolutely amazing for Yejuan, and even if you have no idea what you are doing, she will significantly improve your score or clear time. Quite literally, as I did not know what I was doing when I played her for the very first time in this b-roll footage right here. Generally, she is what Yejuan needed and can flexibly take either team slot and replace your Panda, Pulchra or Astra, or whatever else you are running instead right now. With her refunding decibels and increasing the maximum cap to 4000, that makes it much easier to not only not waste decibels, but also get your ultimates back faster, which leads to 2 or potentially even 3 additional ultimates over the course of the fight for Yejuan specifically. As we have already also just talked about during her Mindscape section, her M2 specifically scales amazing with Yejuan as well. Jufufu is probably the best partner for Yejuan as of right now, but vice versa, that is true as well. And that means regardless of whether you are playing Soldier 11, Evelyn, Ellen or Hugo, they all are married to Lighter, and Jufufu will not actually replace him. At least not if you're looking to get the same score clear time, or even anything close to that. While she takes less field time than Lighter does, Lighter stuns faster, provides more and better buffs, and most importantly a 3-second stun duration extension. While Jufufu can take his spot if you don't have Lighter, if you do, I would not recommend replacing Lighter with Jufufu. On a related note, for Lycon and Hugo and Ellen team specifically, while Fufu can be a replacement for him if you don't have Lycon, I did not notice a significant enough increase in score that it would warrant a pull for that reason alone. Sometimes she scored a little bit higher, but sometimes also lower, which means, for me at least, it was about the same. And I also had similar findings in regards to Trigger in Soldier Zero MB teams. With Fufu providing aftershocks, she pairs somewhat wellish with Soldier Zero NB. While she did not perform as well as Trigger for me, she feels like she can be at least a valid substitute for her. This is mostly due to Trigger's signature just being much better than Jufufu's, but also Electric and Fire not really sharing a weakness. This makes Trigger overall stun faster, and with Trigger providing quick assist as well, that also makes keeping uptime on Astral Voice, which usually your Astra would have up until then, much easier. We can also go for a double stun composition however with Trigger and Jufufu, and that honestly scored about the same as Trigger and Astra did, so I suppose she can replace Astra. Generally speaking, Jufufu is a great pickup if you are looking to improve your Yejuan and has fantastic scalability potential into the future. She also surpasses Collider and Pulchra by a mile, but that is not necessarily an achievement, at least in regards to Collider that is. Jufufu is not necessarily a fantastic pickup for other teams as of right now however. She feels more like a side grade to other teams rather than an upgrade. but that is also only if you already own the respective current best on slot teams. That being Trigger for Zambi and Lighter for Yugo, Alan, Evelyn or Soldier. Jufufu is somewhat of a generalist, but with a strong focus on ultimates, and hence, outside of Yijuan team, she did not outperform her current competition outside of Kolidar and potentially Pulchra. My personal TLDR here being, if you have Yijuan, she is a great pickup. If you have Evelyn, Soldier, Ellen or Yugo but you don't have Lighter, she is still a great pickup. If you need a replacement for Kolidar, she is a great pickup. If not, however, I honestly think she is very skippable. As of right now, that is. Again, she has good potential for scalability into the future, and unfortunately I cannot actually foresee what is to come. So take that with a grain of salt. And with that said, let's finish the video with her pros and cons before I leave you with the showcase. Jufufu is relatively free-to-play friendly as she doesn't need her weapon and has many other great alternatives available if you are willing to play the long game to achieve her maximum buffs. Not only is she also incredibly easy to play, but she is a great general off-field stunner who can slot into many teams while providing generic buffs to all of them. After all, nearly every DPS will use their chain and ultimate someone, and they also profit off crit damage. But she also does not outperform other options in non-Yijuan teams, and hence she does also not replace Lighter in fire and ice teams as of now, as her buffs are generally weaker than his are, but at least she is a fair alternative. Her playstyle is simple, but she still has also some room for optimization, especially in regards to her resource management. Her M1 and M2 are pretty good, but since they are paid, this is a neutral for me. Lastly, her dash attack is the best way of traversing the overworld. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment on whether or not you are getting Jufufu or not. A special thanks to all my Patreon members who support me in making these videos. I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace.